Good morning, everyone. Morning, everyone. My name is Paida Chikate, and I'm the president of the Public Affairs Student Association and a second-year MPP student here at Humphrey School. Thank you for attending the State of the Humphrey and caring about the state of this institution. I have the distinct honor of introducing the Dean of the Humphrey School to the stage this morning. In true Dean Schwartz fashion, I'll take a minute and speak for at least 5. I was sent the Dean's resume and I all about passed out. Dean Schwartz, forgive me because I won't state all your accomplishments, otherwise we'll be here for quite some time. I'll hit the highlights, but the Dean's reputation precedes him, as evidenced by Hillary Clinton's enthusiastic shout out to the Dean and the Humphrey School when she came to speak at the University of Minnesota in December. Eric Schwartz is Dean of the University of Minnesota Humphrey School of Public Affairs. Prior to his appointment at the university, Dean Schwartz served as the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Population, Refugees, and Migration, the principal humanitarian position in the Department of State. He has also served at the United Nations as the UN Secretary General's Deputy Special Envoy for Tsunami Recovery after the Asian tsunami of 2004, and at the White House as Special Assistant to the President for National Security Affairs during the Clinton administration. When I started at the Humphrey, I was nervous about a lot of things, one of them being administrators and how they engage students. The Dean not only dispelled these fears, but he showed me how keen he was to help students bring their best selves to public service. When I was elected president, the dean invited me to his office and asked me what I thought the students needed from administration. He asked me how he could be of help and how he could enrich the student experience. I'm proud to go to an institution where the dean is accessible and can also correctly pronounce my name. More importantly, I relish the fact that he is engaged and has, as his accomplishments show, modeled and continues to model the way for students, faculty, and staff alike. So please help me in welcoming to the stage Dean Eric Schwartz.
Thank you, Paida, for that overly generous introduction. I'm pretty loud. Is that all right? This is my favorite day of the year because it's such an easy day for me in the sense that I get to talk about the Humphrey School. And before I begin, I want to say something that how many students and faculty are here and staff? You can raise your hand. Okay. So what I'm going to say right now, you all know, but others don't, which is, everything we're going to talk about right now, and anything that I'm going to talk about in terms of what I've tried to do, that reflects well on the school. Everyone knows the role that our Associate Dean, Laura Bloomberg, plays in everything we do. Her capacity to take an instinct, an inclination, sometimes an idea, and translate it into something meaningful, enduring, and important for the school. So at the outset, I want to express my appreciation to my friend and colleague, Associate Dean Bloomberg. And you may. Of course, that doesn't free me of any obligation for errors or omissions in this presentation. So let me start. This is the state of the school. This is the Humphrey Assembly. So let me start by talking about what I'm going to talk about over the next 30 or 35 minutes. We'll start by talking about our mission, and then I'll talk a little bit about our goals and what we've tried to accomplish, what we're doing as an institution broadly. And then I want to talk about finance and management, because financial stewardship is a critically important component of work in the institution. And then we'll sum up. And I want to start where I've started in the past, to talk about our mission, or to restate our mission, to inspire, educate, and support innovative leaders to advance the common good in a diverse world. That photo is a favorite of mine, although it is, you'll see, Ife Onye and Ali Alas. So that's spring of 2014, but it's such a nice photo that I decided we were going to use that one. Of course, these are our faculty and staff at Open Arms, an organization that provides food to individuals with life-threatening and chronic illness. And this, we have to thank Maury Kleiner for this. This is our faculty board, which is right outside. So that's our mission. And this is a slide I've used in the past, but I like to restate it, because I think in many respects, there's no one element of our school that no other school, public affairs school in the country has. But taking together, I think the combination of characteristics of our school make us unique, and from my perspective, the best place in the country to study public affairs. The breadth of our programs, we have 6 master's degree programs, PhD program. The quality of the instruction, of the service, the quality behind these programs. An extraordinary faculty, deeply committed to all aspects of professional education, teaching, scholarship, and service. We are locally connected, deeply embedded in this community, but also and firmly rooted in the Twin Cities, the state, and the region. And this is one of the most innovative regions in the country, a place for interesting and important experimentation in governance, engagement between the non-governmental community, the private sector, and government. We are also locally connected, but also nationally and globally connected with 19 Fortune 500 companies in the Twin Cities. We have extraordinary support from a group of stakeholders, many of whom were standing there about 15 minutes ago to get their picture taken, but stakeholders in our community, in the Cedar Riverside community, elsewhere, and it makes a big difference in terms of our capacity to achieve our mission. We have a commitment to diversity and inclusion in our institution. We can talk more about that. I think a work in progress, but a commitment, an important commitment. A commitment to mobility as part of a great land-grant institution with a commitment to both access and excellence. And we have the legacy of Humphrey, who believed that public service was a noble profession in which public institutions, broadly defined, have a deep responsibility to promote well-being of all. So I think these 10 factors, I think taken together, make this really a fantastic institution. So let me talk a little bit about that last factor, our legacy. Last year I had 4 photos, and this year I thought 4 photos of Humphrey and the civil rights movement, but I also thought that this slide is meaningful in terms of the work that we continue to do here at the school, whether it's the work of Professor Myers with the National Forum of Black Public Administrators and the Executive Training Program, whether it's the work of Kathy Quick and Guillermo Naviz with tribal communities, whether it's the work of Ryan Allen and others focusing on issues of concern to the Somali community here in the Twin Cities and around the world. So, last year, I spoke about generic goals that the school has had for many years, relating to scholarship, relating to service, relating to teaching, diversity, and financial management. Overriding goals that the school has and has had for many years. But especially in the context of an upcoming development campaign, and in the context of our own continued consultation within the school, we've thought about how to articulate objectives which really embody what the school is about. And many of you, I think probably most of you, were interviewed in the context of a discussion about our development campaign. And over time, we've begun to speak about 3 overriding objectives that really embody, in many respects, what the school stands for. And I want to talk about them. I want to talk about the way in which they've been characterized, how we're characterizing them, and the efforts that we're undertaking both with respect to those goals and how we're envisioning further progress in each one of these areas. And I want to talk about strengthening democracy and civic life. I want to talk about promoting hope and opportunity in a changing world. And I want to talk about expanding our global reach and our impact. So let me start with strengthening democracy and civic life. What are we doing and what do we want to do? I think in the first instance, our fundamental responsibility involves training future students, our students, and when they're done being our students, our alumni. And I think it's important for us to realize the contributions of our alumni to the common good. We have today more than 300 Humphrey graduates who are working in one way or another for the state of Minnesota. There are about 100 Humphrey graduates who are working in one way or another for the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. more than 500 Humphrey graduates who are working in local governments, mostly in Minnesota, but elsewhere as well. We have 800 graduates of our Policy Fellows mid-career program. There are hundreds of Humphrey graduates who are working in non-governmental organizations in the Twin Cities and beyond, and in the private sector in areas related to corporate social responsibility and other areas that impact public life. So if Minnesota has any claim in any way to of serving as a model in many respects of governance nationally and internationally, it is in no small measure the result of the contributions of students at the Humphrey School. And so I thought I would identify just a few examples, and this was a fun project. I worked with Career Services, and they gave me dozens and dozens of graduates examples of the kind of work our graduates are doing. And I think it's worth recognizing a few. Melvin Carter, the executive director of Minnesota's Children's Cabinet. And I hear an individual has some interest in maybe running for mayor of St. Paul. I'm just telling you what I've read. Kristen Beckman, who the deputy mayor of St. Paul, I think that's right? The deputy mayor of St. Paul, who's made a commitment to who's made diversity a critically important issue for her in her work, formerly worked with Habitat for Humanity. Lisa Franchette, who is the USAID mission director in Senegal. Michelle Vegan, I particularly was eager to have Michelle up there because she is a planner, an energy planner in Montgomery County, Maryland, which is where we emigrated from. So, and Michelle is a graduate in 2010. Trista Harris, who I think is probably with us. Trista, are you here? There she is. The president, she doesn't run it, but the president of the Minnesota Council on Foundations, Rick Larson of the 2nd District, House of Representatives, National House of Representatives, and from the 2nd District in Minnesota, Paul Williams, the president of Project and Pride for Pride in Living, and Mary Small, who is the policy director of the Detention Watch Network. And there were dozens, if not hundreds, of examples of the kind of service that Humphrey students are doing in the Twin Cities, in the region, in the nation, and in the world. But I'd say democracy and civic life also involves continuing education for leadership. And there are so many programs at the Humphrey School that stand for this proposition and that we continue to try to promote and sustain. Whether it's, again, the Executive Leadership Program of the National Forum for Black Public Administrators, whether it's the Policy Fellows Program, the Senior Leadership Institute that Jay Kudrowski has been so involved in, and the work of the Center at Integrative Leadership. Again, 4 examples of dozens that we could identify. Democracy and civic life also involves a deep commitment on the part of the school to civic engagement for our students. Again, examples of where we've tried to give our students these kinds of opportunities, whether it's the Minneapolis Public Schools, the Met Council, the Department of Human Services, the state legislature, and a range of non-governmental organizations in the community. And democracy and civic life also means creating and promoting the Humphrey School as a forum for discussion and debate within our community. Here, well, national figures like Secretary Madeleine Albright, who demonstrated the other day that even former secretaries of state can say things that they later regret. Visit from the fellow who led the National Freedom to Marry effort, an important forum last year on the 50th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, the important work of our Center for the Study of Politics and Governance on politics at the local level, at the state level, nationally, and even internationally. A visit last year from Richard Trumka of the AFL-CIO. These illustrate, the president of the AFL-CIO, these illustrate what we self-consciously see as our role and responsibility in the community. I was thinking about this the other night because I was in Washington, and I was thinking about the Brookings Institution. I was thinking about the American Enterprise Institute, two big think tanks that put on these programs. And then I was thinking about the public affairs schools at American University, at George Washington University, at Georgetown University. And I thought to myself, well, you know, if you roll them up all into one ball and you bring them to Minnesota, that's what we at the Humphrey School aspire to. And it gives us, I think, a critically important role, but also responsibility and obligation in this community. And then, of course, I think it's reasonable for us to think about these aspirations beyond Minnesota. And I think we got a taste of what we are capable of as an institution in terms of convening beyond our borders with this, the borders of the state, not the borders of the nation. The convening of this day-long celebration of Walter Mondale, a great opportunity for the school, not only to raise $2 million for scholarship support, but also to engage the world of policy in discussion and debate. And it was really a great event, a series of events including Vice President Mondale. There's a forum on national security and the Constitution with Dianne Feinstein and Pat Leahy and Vice President Mondale. Great sessions on civil rights with Andy Young, Marian Wright Edelman, and of course Josie Johnson, and of course Jimmy Carter's involvement in the event. And I think for us it was very inspirational to be able to identify this as an objective for the school, to put it on in a way that promoted a meaningful engagement on important policy issues, and at the same time use it as an opportunity to raise significant and substantial resources for our. So, new challenges. Let me just throw out a few that we're trying to promote in the months and the years to come that reflect our continuing commitment to the important work of our faculty and our students in each of these areas. We are delighted to have been chosen to serve as a host institution for the Council of State Governments Executive Leadership Development Institute. That will begin in 2017, involving representatives from 11 states in the Midwest. We're very excited about a new certificate in election administration. This responds to kind of a national call and need for enhanced expertise in this critically important area, and informed by the memory of the hanging Chad experience in the 2000 election. And so many other issues, but if I don't put this one up, I'll hear from the Associate Dean. So eCommons effort to highlight and translate policy relevant faculty research. Laura refers to it as This American Life for our faculty, right? Did I get it right? Which really is trying to package the work of our faculty and promote it to a much broader audience because of the importance of the community at large, communities at large, having access to the work, the very important work of our faculty. So now let me move to promoting hope and opportunity in America and the world. Now let me say a word about that. Conservatives, liberals, Tea Party activists, Bernie Sanders supporters disagree on a lot. But I think there's one thing that nobody can disagree on, which is that your potential for success as a human being should not be a function of where you were born, how much money you were born into, what the color of your skin is, what your gender is. I don't think anyone would disagree with the simple proposition that those factors should not determine your success or your happiness in life. But as we know, all too often, they do. And if they do, whatever your politics, this has got to be an important objective for the Humphrey School. And the way I would put it is, our faculty is all over this in so many different ways. Whether it's the work of the Human Capital Research Collaborative, looking at evidence-based interventions in early childhood education to give people a real chance, to give young people a real chance, whether it's the work of the Roy Wilkins Center, using the tools of economic analysis to address social, economic, and racial inequities, whether it's a MERP, urban and regional planning faculty, that has a distinct commitment to issues of social equity. We have MERP faculty involved in transportation issues and so many of our MERP faculty involved in transportation issues who are looking at the social and economic implications of transportation interventions. We have MERP faculty who are looking at patterns of residence in immigrant communities and the policy implications of negative implications of patterns of movement within immigrant communities. We have MERP faculty who are looking at a 20th century housing policy. And I almost forgot, we have MERP faculty who are looking at the process of decision-making, of collaborative decision-making, to ensure that planning decisions, reflect the interests, the needs of the communities that they are supposed to be serving. So it is I think, a comprehensive and coherent approach to urban and regional planning, about which Hubert Humphrey would be very proud. And of course, we recognize as an institution that issues of hope and opportunity do not end at the borders of our own country. So, what are we thinking about? What more initiatives are we thinking about? Again, preparing a presentation like this is very difficult because inevitably you are presenting a limited amount of information. And in this particular area, almost every one of our faculty members is deeply involved. So here are just some examples of new initiatives in this area that we're thinking about. One institutional initiative is the Humphrey School competed very assertively, and we were delighted to be chosen as the national home of the Public Policy and International Affairs Program, which is the national pipeline program for underrepresented students who are seeking opportunities in public service. Right now, there are 4 universities that have summer institutes. Let me see if I can remember them. Berkeley, someone help me here, Princeton, 2 others. Michigan, and Carnegie Mellon. Thank you, Amy Luchins. I think the Humphrey School should be the home of a summer institute as well. I think it would manifest and reflect our commitment to providing opportunities for underrepresented communities, both in Minnesota and around the world. We have moved forward on the issue of a faculty appointment, both as a faculty appointment and the appointment of our director for the Center on Women, Gender, and Public Policy. We've moved forward and are moving forward on a Master's of Human Rights degree in collaboration with the College of Liberal Arts. And we're expecting to bring in our first class next fall, again, underscoring the importance of the notion that hope and opportunity are not just American issues, that they are issues that concern the future of humankind. And of course, our efforts on diversity and inclusion, a continual work in progress, but I'm very proud to be the dean of an institution in which the faculty, the staff, and the students are so self-consciously concerned about ensuring that what we preach outside the walls of the Humphrey School, we seek to practice within our institution. And we can talk more on that during the question and answer period. So, expanding our global reach and impact. A third major objective for the school. So what are we doing in this regard as an institution? Well, a number of examples of our efforts here. I think one of the best example of what I said before, an idea, a notion, an inclination translated into a programmatic reality about which we can be very proud. We were delighted to be approached several years ago by the Obama administration. We were asked whether we'd be prepared to be a participant in this event. I thought it was a great idea, but Laura Bloomberg, Mary Benasuti, Vanessa Laird, and many others turned that idea into a robust program in which we bring African leaders. We don't bring them, they come. African leaders from throughout sub-Saharan Africa come to the Humphrey School. I've been coming to the Humphrey School every summer for a program which I'm proud to say is seen as a model of inclusive leadership development for other programs around the country. We are expanding our International Fellows Program. We were delighted that the National Humphrey Fellows Program, when the law school decided needed to relinquish its or end its engagement in the Humphrey Fellows Program, we were delighted that the National Office for the Humphrey Program accepted our proposal to combine the programs here at the Humphrey School, which we will be doing, and we're very excited about that. Just another example, our own faculty's involvement in the UN High Commissioner's Global Initiative on Somali refugees. We can talk more about that if you'd like, but connected to our relationships within the Somali American community here in the Cedar Riverside community and elsewhere in Minnesota. And of course, the partnership for international research and education program, Sustainable Cities, that under Anu Ramaswamy's guidance, 15 Humphrey students were in China and India in a collaborative exercise involving Georgia Tech, Yale University, the Indian Institute of Technology, the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and Tsinghua University. But I think it's broader than this, because the work of our STEP faculty, whether it's engagement in the Paris Conference, whether it's engagement on broad issues of climate policy, all of our STEP faculty are deeply engaged in issues of global importance. So what more? Let me just talk about one initiative. There are so many where we were delighted to reach agreement with one of Washington's premier think tanks, global think tanks, the Stimson Center. We will be hosting Thomas Pickering, America's premier diplomat, here at the Humphrey School in March for a discussion of foreign policy issues in the context of the presidential campaign. But this is a partnership which gives us a Humphrey School office in Washington, which we've already begun to make use of. It gives us the opportunity for collaboration with Stimson on student internships, on student capstones, and also the potential for research collaboration. So we're very excited about this partnership. So as we discuss our compact request on Friday, as I discussed that with the provost, and as we discuss our development planning, these themes, and in our discussions with faculty about a multi-year campaign, these themes continue to emerge. And they seem to frame our own understanding of ourselves and our own expectations about the future. But they all, to my mind, rest on an edifice of faculty scholarship and engagement. and see if I can remember these statistics, but hang on, I want to get them right, so I'm going to go to my notes. I haven't gone to my notes yet. Oh, good, I'm glad I did. I would have gotten it wrong. Oh, in calendar year 2015, our faculty was responsible for 128 publications, 38 members of our graduate faculty responsible for 128 publications, 7 books or book chapters, and more than 40 articles in peer-reviewed journals. That is, for a faculty of our size, that is a formidable number of publications. I think. And it is really, as I say, the edifice. Everything else we do is a function of that level of scholarly productivity. It informs our service, it enhances our reputation, and it makes all the difference in terms of the well-being and the future of the school. So this is another fun slide. The only thing I feel bad about is I end up excluding faculty, for which I apologize in advance, but just some recent publications. Jody Sanford on effective implementation in practice, Ed Getz on housing policy, Anu Ramaswamy's work on climate change. A forthcoming book, Larry, I haven't broken any copyright rules, have I, by putting this up, on the Federal Reserve. Maury's work, this is an old work, but it has been cited so many times that in various journals, in various government reports, and has so informed policy, we decided we would put it up on occupational licensing. A new book by Bob Kuderly on work by Ryan Allen and Yingling, I think that's Yingling Fan, and of course Elizabeth Wilson's work on smart grids, and of course another one, I'd get in trouble from the Associate Dean if I didn't put this one up, on creating public value in practice, and on and on and on. So it is a tribute. I think anything that we achieve as an institution doesn't get achieved without this. So how do these objectives link with the grand challenges? With the university has articulated 5 grand challenges, and if I don't get them, Joe, if I don't get them quite right, you can correct me, but they're in areas of sustainable food, clean water and ecosystems, health, equity and justice, and individual and building individual and collective capabilities, right? And you see how substantively, we are all over those issues. Promoting hope and opportunity in a changing world, for example, is all about equity, justice, individual and collective capacity. And in our compact presentation, we had such fun in putting a grid together, in identifying our objectives and checking all the boxes where they linked to the university's grand challenges. But perhaps more significantly, there isn't a grand challenge. All of these grand challenges are about public life. And public life is about policy, right? It's about making collective decisions that impact thousands, if not millions of people. So every single one of those grand challenges involves the Humphrey School, because each one has a policy dimension which is central to achieving the objectives. So we feel very confident and comfortable about that. So school-wide and enduring goals in our development efforts. Well, we've been consulting with faculty. We've been talking in our executive council about this campaign, and we're going to identify some targets for a campaign that over the next 5 years, we hope to raise between $10 and $15 million. And we can talk in much greater detail about the components of those fundraising objectives. But I want to emphasize, to my mind, the most critical objective is enhancing our support for our students. And that will be reflected in the campaign. And why do I think that? I think that because support for our students is where virtue meets necessity. Virtue is the fact that students who want to go to professional school, to be spending their lives, their professional lives, trying to make the world a better place, and who are seeking the tools to enable them to do that effectively, deserve to be supported. You may not have noticed, but students in public life don't have careers that provide the greatest degree of compensation. You can do fine in public life. I hope I'm a reflection of that. But our students should not be graduating the Humphrey School of Public Affairs with many thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars in some cases, in debt. So I think we have a solemn obligation to focus the bulk of our campaign efforts in enhancing student support. And I'm very proud to say that in the last 3 or 4 years, we have probably increased the size of our endowment for student support by between 20 and 30%. And that signals to me that we have a capacity to do much more in this area. 4 or 5 years ago, about 15% of our students got support. Now the numbers are closer to 50 or 60%. But they don't get enough, and not enough of them get it, and we don't have enough resources to fully realize our commitment to diversity and inclusion. So we're going to be taking aim at all of those issues in the context of the campaign. So now let me get to financial management and resiliency, and then we can talk about this issue as well. Financial stewardship is extremely important in a small institution where we get about half or more of our resources from tuition, which means that we have a rather fragile situation, but a situation which is wholly manageable. So let me talk about some key indicators. To me, this is the most important one. You know, there's a lot of complicated charts that our new finance director, Mark Erickson. Mark, are you here? Mark. Oh, he's outside greeting. And it's all very good. It's all very important and all very interesting. But at the end of the day, as the dean, this is what I care about. Is our recurring budget pretty much in balance? Which means, can we go to Central and say that we're on a sustainable path? And do we have enough walking around money? And this bottom line, which is available reserves at the end of fiscal year 2016. I like this number to be a little larger, but it's okay where it is. And this is a reflection of our current financial situation, which I think it's fair to say our financial situation is stable and solid. This chart is really an interesting one, and maybe more interesting to wonks than non-wonks, but I think interesting nonetheless. And you saw, I used this chart last year, and I call it a commitment to mission chart, and it speaks about the allocation of our budget over time. And so these are expenses. And if you look at the percentage of our overall budget for faculty, which is mission, in 2012, it was 26.77%. Last year when I reported, it was 31.81. And this year, Mark's estimate is it's about 39. If that number is correct, you know, a number's a numbers, but these are the numbers that were generated, and I have a good amount of confidence in our new finance director. This reflects, as a percentage of our overall budget, it reflects a 50% increase as a percentage of our overall budget of support, almost 50% increase in support for faculty. And then on the administration side, we've gone from 27% or 27.8% to 18%. So that's, you know, about a 30% reduction in administrative costs. Not a reduction in administrative costs in real numbers, but a reduction as a percentage of our overall budget. And since our overall budget has been reasonably constant over time, that represents a significant shift in resources. I think the major causes of that shift has been a commitment by the school to enhance the capacity of our mission, of our faculty and our mission. That's been the major cause. But I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say that some degree of this change is a result of an extraordinary process that went on in the university. Several years ago, a report was issued which indicated that there were salary differences based on gender disparities at the University of Minnesota. And there was a lot of thought given to this important issue and careful analysis which tried to separate out merit, differences based on merit, differences based on years in service, versus differences that couldn't really be explained in ways other than gender disparities, right? And since we're at a School of Public Policy, we take these kinds of studies pretty seriously. And so the university did, I think, an extraordinary thing. And it empowered deans to empower faculty to recommend to deans how they should address this situation. And I was delighted that our faculty made a series of recommendations, very specific numbers involved, and as an institution, my feeling was if any institution should implement those recommendations to a T, it should be an institution of public affairs. And that's what we did. And that's also reflected, I think, in this increase of support for mission. So that's our allocation of budget over time. And we feel that we're doing what the university really wants us to do in terms of how we're spending our budget. So let me talk about funding for students. This reflects funding through our public. This is the only slide in the presentation, I apologize, which is an old slide. All the other slides have been updated. This is an old slide, and I apologize for that, but we haven't yet generated these numbers. But they give you some trend information, which I think is valuable. This reflects an increase in our efforts to using constant dollars to support our students, right? These are not endowment earnings, but these are monies that come in every year. And this is significant because if you think about a $1 million endowment earning about $50,000 a year, then $174,000, this number, is the functional equivalent of an endowment of over $3 million. So when you get those requests, those annual alumni fundraising requests, take them very seriously because they make a big difference in terms of our capacity to support our students. So we've had progress, which we hope to continue in this area. We've also had progress in terms of building our endowment. And that number for 2015 and 2016 will be much larger, largely as a result of the Mondale Initiative, where we will have raised about $2 million for student support. And this just reflects the general growth of our endowment. Again, these numbers are old, and we will update them. And then finally, student aid. This is a good story. Because of our increased efforts at fundraising, we've been able to increase student support from between 2013 and 2017, and this is draft, we will have increased support probably by about 30% for our students. Now, those of you who were watching attentively last year will come back and say, and if you don't remember, I'll tell you, that the number for 2016 was about $2 million. And that resulted from those extra monies, we think resulted primarily from two factors. Number one, the Clinton Scholarship. As you recall, Bill Clinton visited, and we got a lot of money from ticket sales and sales to a reception, and he very generously donated his time. So that created scholarship support that was one-time scholarship support, and also unexpended balances we used last year that we had available. So our numbers from last year is a little lower this year, but my intention is to find additional resources this year to get us closer to that $2 million total for this year. But in general, the trend is a positive one in terms of student aid. Challenges and opportunities. I think the challenges and opportunities are reflected very much in the areas of focus that I've outlined. I think our challenges and opportunities involve sustaining our commitment and increasing our support for our students. I think it involves strengthening our efforts related to the promotion of democratic institutions and civic life, hope and opportunity, and expanding our global reach and our impact. And I think this is the best place in the country to study public affairs. I hope the foregoing presentation made that case as powerfully, it certainly made it as powerfully as I can make it. I think the easy part of this kind of presentation is the work of the Humphrey School, the work of the faculty, the work of the students, the work of the staff. They speak for themselves. And when Eric Kaler said last night at the Humphrey School Advisory Council reception that we were the leading part of the university in terms of engagement with the community and engagement on the policy issues of the day, I think he said something which is true, and I think he said something that was meaningful, and I think he said something that reflected the university's confidence in this institution. So that's it. Thank you. I think it's time for questions or comments. Yes? Is that Ann?
Ann Carroll, proud alum. Thank you so much for this presentation. You've done a great job, I think, at telling us a number of ways where you are holding the institution accountable in a public way for progress on lots of these key goals. I'd like to know, over time, how the school is going to do the same in terms of public accountability around the equity and justice issues.
Great question. I think the answer is, if I can misuse a phrase, which is always misused, is the proof is in the pudding. If someone knows the correct articulation of that expression, you can offer it. But I think it's pretty easy to set. It's pretty easy, to develop means of accountability. How many faculty members have you hired in the last 5 years? What percentage of those faculty members come from underrepresented communities? Now, the answer to that question isn't dispositive, because there could be very good reasons why you haven't achieved results, but then you can go to other metrics, outputs, that give you some insight. How many candidates from underrepresented groups were in your pool? How many were finalists? Did you make any extraordinary decisions to bring people into the pool, even when in the normal course of events that wouldn't have happened? I think those are questions that have answers. And I think, so now the obvious question is, with respect to that issue, what are our answers? I think our answers are, I think the school is making serious, on the issue of faculty hiring, I think we're making serious and significant efforts. I think we have, in a majority of our, and I'm going to start to rattle off some statistics based on my recollection. So later, if I'm proven a little wrong, just give me give me a little bit of flexibility. But I think in a majority of our recent searches, we have made offers to candidates from underrepresented groups, offers of employment. About half of our recent hires, we're a small school, so half is maybe 3 out of 6. But half of our recent hires in recent years have been from communities of color. And in most of those cases, they resulted from efforts that I would regard as beyond, what other institutions would have done to achieve those results. But I don't think we've gone far enough. And there's much more we can do. I'd say the same thing with respect to students. That's why I think one major scholarship initiative that we have to be focused on has got to be at promoting a diversity of ideas and backgrounds at the Humphrey School. I think that's got to be a discrete, multi-year scholarship initiative that I'm absolutely committed to. Yes?
I was an undergraduate here. I was an undergraduate here 50 years ago, as you know, and was interested in public affairs and ended up going to what you call Princeton University's Humphrey School.
That's what I've called it, actually.
I know.
I called that to you last night.
That's what you call it.
Yeah.
That's fine. One of the reasons I left, this school was really non-existent at that point, but the financial aid that they were offering was, then it was $2,000 plus free tuition and everything. Can you talk a little bit about where the students are coming from now? Is it still primarily Midwest, or are you beginning to attract a national student body as well?
Well, I'm going to invite Amy Luchins to interrupt me, or actually to comment on whether what I say is right. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a two-sentence answer, and then I'm going to ask Amy to answer the rest of it. In short, a majority of our students are from Minnesota. Probably between 50 and 60% of our students are from Minnesota. I'd say my guess would be another 20 to 30% are from within the region, and maybe I'd say 10 to 25% are from parts further away. Did I get it about right, Amy?
Yeah, so I think your point about how many students are from Minnesota is accurate. In any given year, we've seen 45 to 60% of the incoming class across all degree programs from Minnesota, and obviously that varies depending on the degree program. And then beyond that, to Eric's point, we usually have an incoming class that has 10 to 20% of students coming from other countries, and those
I forgot the
range.
internationals, yeah.
And so with that remaining sort of 20 to 30% of students, they really come from all over the country. There are years where we've seen a larger influx from the region, but by and large, I think we can say pretty confidently they're coming from all over.
Yeah. Of course it does. It's critical. And, you know, I would, absolutely. And, you know, I had the same experience when I went to graduate school. The school that offered me the most was the one I went to. It wasn't complicated. Other questions or comments?
This is an unimportant and unrelated question.
No such thing.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned that Ambassador Tom Pickering would be coming in March. I'm wondering the auspices and the dates.
Yeah, well, we wanted to do we did a wonderful kickoff event that Raghi Assad was involved in Washington, with this partnership between the Stimson Center and the Humphrey School, so we wanted to do a return engagement here. And we've also wanted to have Tom Pickering at the Humphrey School. He really is. I mean, he is America's, right now, probably America's most distinguished living diplomat or former diplomat, former ambassador to Russia, a former, was he Deputy Secretary of State? I know he was Undersecretary of Political Affairs, UN ambassador, strong supporter of the Iran, played a very public role in the Iran nuclear agreement, a very strong supporter of the agreement, and an important voice in that debate. So we've wanted him here, and we knew about this return engagement with Stimson, and I thought to myself, gee, I wonder. So I went on the Stimson website, and sure enough, Tom was a board member of Stimson. So we will have a nice confluence of circumstances that the return engagement will feature Ambassador Pickering. And the date we're looking at, don't hold me to it, but because it's still tentative, is March 29th. And I'm sure you're thinking, gee, that's a lot longer an answer than I asked for. I just wanted a date. Okay, we have 5 more minutes for Q's and A's.
I'd like to see the courses that were taught here under public administration. This Humphrey School ignores what happened back in the 30s, 40s, 50s. I happened to graduate in 1957 from courses I took here in 55, 56. And I'm talking about public finance, public fiscal policy, sewers, the Flint, Michigan disaster illustrates we need more emphasis on teaching public service in the area of water pollution, and sewers.
Right.
Like we had when Clarence Ludwig taught here. So I've talked to you about this before.
You have.
And I tried to get David Zwick over here.
Right.
as a teacher, but nothing happened.
Okay.
I talked to Judge Thunheim about that.
So, I don't know whether to turn to, I'm looking at my friend Greg Lindsay, who we've had many conversations about this issue, or Laura Bloomberg. And Laura, but in point of fact, we do what? Let me set the framework, and then let me invite either Laura or Greg, if you'd like. I'd love to comment. But let me say that comprehensive schools of public affairs have ambitious agendas. We just do. And I love the fact that we do. Why do I love the fact that we do? Because it creates within a unitary institution a vibrant interdisciplinary environment, which makes this not only an interesting place to be, but a place in which our understandings are enriched by our engagement in these different disciplines. So comprehensive schools of public affairs have ambitions to be schools of global affairs, training diplomats, schools of planning, schools training development professionals, international development professionals, schools training individuals who want to be engaged in the policy dimensions of science and technology. A school that trains people for the business of policy analysis, distinct from administration. So I would say what we've done with the comprehensive schools is broaden the focus to deal with the challenges of the 20th and 21st century without ignoring the challenges of public administration. There's another person who could talk about this, Jody Sanford. Jody, would you like to say a few words about that?
Eric, can I jump in? This is Frank
Yes,
Daum
you're
over
going to
here.
get a lot of reaction from faculty, which is great.
Eric, if I can jump in, also on the point of sewer directly, I want to highlight that Rebecca Otto, the state auditor, was, I'm not sure how this happened, having a press conference at virtually the same time that you were talking, highlighting work that has been done here at the university, coordinated by Carissa Slaughterbock, looking at the aging water infrastructure in the state of Minnesota.
Okay, I'm gonna thank you, Frank. Jody?
So the dean has asked me to speak because I'm the chair of the management and leadership area of this school. And while we do not really teach traditional public administration, what we are known for nationally and globally is public and nonprofit management. That is the name of our center. And it really reflects what Eric is talking about, that public services are delivered through this very bizarre combination and collaboration between the public and the nonprofit sector. So we teach financial management, we teach human resource management, we teach contracting and process improvement, but we do so not just within the public bureaucracy, but between this partnership between government and nonprofits. And that is really what we're known for among our peers nationally, and we continue to think that that's the right position for us to be in, given how public service provision has changed.
I should have asked Jody to answer that first before I'm sorry about that. Thank you for that, and that very, very valuable. Anu Ramaswamy, the chair of our Denny Chair for Science, Technology, and Environmental Policy.
I just wanted to add a couple more comments to this thread. I think we talked about Flint, Michigan and sewer systems. One of the projects, we have a new grant here on sustainable cities and sustainability research on infrastructure, and our students are actually collaborating with the Metropolitan Council on looking at the issue of wipes. So actually, so-called flushable wipes are not so flushable, and they're clogging up our sewer system. So this is a very active project, and a class we teach is called Material and Energy Flows for a Sustainable Society. Addresses issues of infrastructure from a science, technology, and policy perspective. And these types of projects connect us with groups like the Met Council to take the research to action. Thanks.
Thank you, Anu. I think we have time for one more question or comment. Well, thank you very much. It's just a joy to have the honor and opportunity to give this presentation. I feel, let me just speak personally, I feel every day so fortunate to serve as Dean of the Humphrey School. This is a magnificent institution whose future is very bright, and it is. We look forward to continuing to thrive in the days, weeks, months, and years to come. So thank you. Oh, yes, sir. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Associate Dean Bloomberg.
Thanks, Eric. The dean started his comments by saying today was his favorite day of the year, and I have to start mine by saying that on this day, it makes me feel proud, really, really proud to be a part of this institution. So thank you, Eric, for shining a bright light on so many people's accomplishments here. Now I have the great honor of introducing our recipients of our service awards this year. First, a couple of comments. Across the school, we have a core group of dedicated and hardworking staff members who bring a level of professionalism and commitment to mission and creativity to their work every day in a manner that without which our focus on teaching and research and outreach and community engagement just couldn't happen. It couldn't happen without these people. And still, most of these staff colleagues are not seen in the front of a classroom. Their names don't appear on the top of our publications or the books on the slide that Eric showed us. They're typically not at this podium when this auditorium fills time and again with members of our community who are here to share in policy work with us. And still every day, they bring their considerable talents to this school in a mission-focused way that helps us all be successful, and in a way that I think our namesake would be really, really proud. We have staff members who, and I wrote this down because I think this is really important. We have staff members of this community who ensure our grant proposals get out the door on time and with a high level of accuracy, who make sure the bills get paid on time and new employees get hired and oriented into the school in a way that helps them to thrive. We have employees who recruit and admit Humphrey School students and then extend to them professional advising and career counseling while they're here as students and long after they graduate. We have staff who make sure our classes are scheduled accurately and that professors have the tools they need to make sure that our curriculum goals are met every day in the classroom. We have staff who bring a high level of technical skill and technological innovation to this school that allows us to extend our teaching and our impact across the globe. We have staff who work with us to tell our story and communicate our vision of advancing the common good to the world outside of academia. Perhaps most importantly, they know the world outside of academia, and maybe that's where some of the good common sense comes in. They make sure that this facility, even as it ages, is in good working order, and they help us throw open the doors and welcome the community into this space in a way that I think, again, would make Hubert Humphrey proud. Our colleagues do all of this, we all know, while navigating an ever-changing higher education landscape and an ever-increasing list of priorities and demands on their time. So before I announce this year's recipients of the service awards, I'd like us to recognize all of the staff people who are here, whether they're, please stand, please stand. If you're a staff member, please stand for us to recognize you. Thank you. Really, they do all that stuff every day. So it's difficult to select just a few leaders among that group to receive our Outstanding Service Award, but the three people I'm about to introduce you to went above and beyond this year. Their contributions set a high bar for excellence, and I'm proud to announce them today. First, Michelle Chalinsky is a human resource specialist at the school and was a steady and invaluable colleague during our HR and finance transitions earlier this year. During this transition period, as we were hiring a new HR director, Michelle went above and beyond to explain and take care of university HR issues for us as they related to the Humphrey School. She was the go-to person, and she juggled multiple and competing demands during this busy time. This past year, Michelle also developed an online orientation program and an exit interview process for Humphrey School employees. Michelle's key activities and accomplishments above and beyond her day-to-day human resources responsibilities over the past year include being elected to the University Senate, the Disability Issues Committee, and serving as a part of the advanced team for the university's upgrade to the PeopleSoft system, which was no easy accomplishment. Michelle, oops, I'm seeing it right now. How about that?
Here you go.
There we go. Okay, thank you. Michelle serves on our Humphrey School Diversity Committee and is an active member of HADME, the Humphrey Association for Disabilities and Mental Illness. It was indeed a busy year for Michelle. As her nominator commented, Michelle continually shows her dedication to the school, its mission, and the field of human resources. Please join me in congratulating Michelle Chalinsky. And Michelle, come on down. And now I will remember the slides. Our Director of Information Technology, Linda Dick, also had a busy year this year and in countless ways demonstrated her deep commitment to the school. Perhaps most significantly and certainly most visibly, she and her colleague John Mayer, who was a recipient of this award last year, were a driving force behind the design and the development and transition to a new and improved Humphrey School website. If you haven't seen it, you got to check it out. It's pretty amazing. I could go on and on about what we found out about the cost of outsourcing that work and having it done outside the university. And when Linda said, I think we should get it done here, and it's going to be a considerable undertaking, but it will save us literally tens of thousands of dollars, you would understand just how much we appreciate that work. Linda also worked in partnership with students this year to make student-focused improvements to our computer labs. She made significant improvements to the management of our tech equipment that's available for checkout for all of us. She worked closely with our technology-enhanced learning team to support our online collection of teaching materials that we call the Hubert Project, and also worked hard to develop an online pre-entry tutorial program for all of our incoming students, so we're sure they'll be successful when they start in our core curriculum. We call that our Foundations for Success program. It's not insignificant that Linda has a really impressive way of making friends with key partners like folks in classroom management and central IT, and that is so important to a small school that wants to be recognized and serviced well inside a large institution. Linda knows how to get things done with a wonderful mix of good nature and great skill. Linda's nominators commented, Linda makes an invaluable contributions to the school that every day have a positive impact on how we are able to meet the needs and serve our students, our faculty, and our staff. Please join me in congratulating Linda Dick on her award. Come on down, Linda. And finally, our last award recipient was not able to be here today. If she were, we'd all know it because her enthusiasm and certainly her laughter are unmistakable. I'm sorry that Christine Preston can't be here. Many of you know of her work and have heard of her reputation around the school, even though she's been with us a relatively short time. For many prospective applicants and students, I know I'm terrible at that. Christine juggles a series of complex tasks, like turning slides and reading at the same time. It's tricky, I guess. And keep our complex admissions process running smoothly. Christine has been instrumental in developing data systems, proposing creative solutions, and coordinating countless recruitment and admissions events at the school. Since she has only been here since 2014, She has made amazing changes to the admissions process and is also deeply embedded in the diversity and equity work of the school. She's quickly made herself invaluable. As Christine's nominator commented, the leadership Christine demonstrates in how she approaches current and future Humphrey students is inspirational, and the school is a better place because she's here. Just like the Academy Awards, I will say I will accept this award on Christine's behalf. I wish I had a better story than that she's getting a root canal while we're recognizing her, but that's the truth. Please join me once again in recognizing our award recipients and all the amazing staff who are here today. And that concludes the official part of our program. Lunch will be served in the atrium. A couple of comments about that. First, many of you may be here who did not register, and we know that there's plenty of food. Let's just make sure that those who registered, which does not include me, so I'll be at the back of the line with the rest of you, let's make sure that those people go through the line first. And also, I would encourage you, we have faculty members here, we have advisory council members, we have a number of students, we have those committed staff that I was just talking about. Take this opportunity to meet somebody you don't know. Learn something about the school or our community partners that you don't know, and enjoy your lunch and your lunch conversations with a new group of people today. Thanks again so much for coming. We'll see you out in the atrium.
Oh, God.